Calling to order the Newbury Recreation Committee on October 3rd at 5:34. All members present, names?
Mary Anastasio.
Celine Muldowney.
David Brohl.
And Mark Sant.
Okay. Let's say, reading of the previous minutes. I did not get a copy. I tried to download that from, did you end up sending that out?
I thought I had.
What happened, what I got with the previous minutes, and it could be a mistake, was the, this week's agenda. But I may be wrong on that.
What happened?
Were you able to read through the previous minutes?
If you haven't read them, let's just.
No, it's an agenda.
Yeah, I got an agenda.
Then my apologies, they were done. Let me make a motion that we table the approval of the minutes of our last meeting until the next meeting.
Second? All approved?
Aye.
Excellent. Correspondence. Bills and plans.
So we have two.
So we have a G-Mello bill from August, and there's going to be another one
Coming in for
September. So we
Yes.
should probably just put them both on the same bill
Warrant.
schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have to sign off on a one of the fall users. They got the check.
Okay,
So we just
okay.
have to sign it off.
Okay.
And give it back to Lindsay so she can deposit the check. That's it.
Excellent. Going through old business, signage on the basketball court. I went by and there are 4 signs there. They're very large, 2 on the entranceway and 2 in the back on the basketball court, which we've been waiting for. So they're up and in place, and that has been taken care of.
Pictures will be sent to everybody in just a second.
Oh, you took pictures. I was going to take it, then I thought to myself,
Okay, what else?
Location of the dumpster. So I got in touch with James, and he said that they're quite busy right now, but they could do it in the springtime. So unless we have a Boy Scout that wants to dig a hole and pour some concrete, we'll wait until springtime to have the dumpster put on some concrete. Field and facility policy submitted to town administrator for council review, and I think that that's being done at the present time, correct?
Yes.
So it's still in the process.
Yep.
Spending plan. Did you get something from town hall?
There was a document that was sent, I'm
So-
trying to find it, that gave our breakdown from last year. We
Yeah.
should have it.
Yeah.
Did you get that as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you resend it to me just to?
I'll never find it, but I
Yeah,
will.
that's what I'm having. Basically, we just need to break down what our expenses were for last year, reoccurring expenses, and monthly expenses, one-time expenses. Kind of get an idea of how much we need to allocate this year and encumber for the different services,
Was that-
whether it's field use. We use funds from the DPW. We pay the DPW to take care of the fields. And there's some other incidentals, electric, water, fire alarm that we have to pay for. So we will, Dave, do you want to help me with that? Or by sending me an email.
Yeah.
And I'll come up with something and get it to people to see what our encumbered funds will be versus our discretionary funds.
Was that a PDF that came the other day from Tracy Blaze?
I believe so, yeah. Do you have it? I read it, so I don't know why it's not showing up.
I wonder if it's one of those you read it and it just disappears.
I hope so.
Is it-
I mean, I hope not.
There you go.
Did you set it up?
Yeah, I just replied to all of them.
Okay, excellent. And there will, obviously, there's going to be some new things that we're going to add on there because we have not, and I guess at the end of November, we'll call some septic company and have them pump that, and that will be sort of, we'll get an idea.
You'll talk to DPW about arranging.
Yeah.
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 Any other additional costs we may see, not that it's gonna happen this year or next year, but like regrading the parking lot. I know that needs to be done every so often, but it doesn't need it now, but at some point down the road, those are kind of those, oh, every 5 years we need to grade it out to make sure we don't have
Right.
bigger problems.
And we can find out from Tracy if that is billed to us or if that's just a normal expense of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should find out exactly what we have to cover in what towns, because there was a period of time where we were paying for cleaning the bathrooms.
Right.
And I think DPW took that over, but I don't know if we're being charged for that. But I can.
Well, in my letter, I think you were included in it, Dave. I didn't get it clear and confirm with, once we get a preliminary spending plan, we can have Tracy look at it to ensure that we're covering all the costs that we are responsible for.
Yeah, in that spreadsheet that she sent out, there was a listing of the prior charges, and I haven't looked to see if DPW has billed us for those, because I think that that's the route that it would take. If we're being charged for it, it would show up from the town.
Yeah, it hasn't been.
Yep. Oh, yes. So, yeah. All right. Master plan proposal. So, I think we have a couple things that are sort of on the table. One of them is to knock off, I think you talked about it before, the playground and the kayak launch. And I think if we get together with Chris Huntress and, because the cost shouldn't be much for him to come up with a sort of a blueprint of what we want to do in what space, and then the town said that they would pay for that. There's funds for it. I shouldn't say they said they would pay for it. They said there's funds to do that work. So I think that we have the major overall situation is Kenway that we want to eventually attempt.
Get an environmental study completed so that we know what is possible at this point. Usually they ask for what are your plans for it, and we can come up with general playing fields and parking.
Yep.
And then we can do the details of it later. But if there's a huge rock in the middle of it that we can't blast out, well, that doesn't make sense. But the idea is to clear it, access parking for the library and the ball field, so they're not using the library part, and then clear it, and then once it's clear, we can start using it for an auxiliary field. If the Central Street property is too water laden, we could send people down there and dig it up, chew it up, and we just, replant it. It wouldn't be irrigated or just sloped for drainage.
And we've had in prior years, we've had a lot of people that want to use, there are more people that want to use those fields than are available.
Mhm.
So it, in the future, could be another revenue stream.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think of it that way, but, let's say that, people from town decide that they want to set up a I don't know, softball league or something like that, that land could be free to use for them. So I think it would probably be the same situation that we have right now with Central Street Field, that town people can use it. But if we have if we could divert eventually some league of some sort in that direction, because at one point we're getting calls all over the place for field use, so.
A question, so is that Kentway environmental study different than when Tracy came to us and said that there was money coming from the federal?
I think the money from the federal, I think
That was to get Chris Huntress
yeah,
here.
to look
and
at
the playground.
Yeah, the playground up at at Central Street Fields, and I think that he also probably has, because I think he's probably involved with it, and I haven't talked to him yet. He probably has plans for, because I think he was involved in that back in the day. So.
I have those.
Yeah.
Huh.
I have a copy.
Yeah, cool.
Just to go back, I mean, there's two different two different things, two different avenues. One is a plan, a vision for that property at 81 Central Street. Potential items that we would like, or people have suggested that we use both present and in the past. Whether it's connecting the walking trails, putting in a playground, a fitness station around for the walking trail, canoe launch, whatever. We throw out what some of the suggestions have been. Then we would be hiring resources, and there's two parts to this part. One is 81 Central Street, what can we do there? And then a separate but equal, what are some of the recreational activities / spaces that can be utilized by the town? That would be the Kent Way. And there's two different streams of funding for that, the environmental studies. In the past, there has been funds on a first come, first served basis, I don't like that phrase. The town administrator has funds in her budget that could be allocated for projects like that. There's also the art money from the COVID relief funds. They have a timeline that we would have to fulfill. It needs to be completed by the end of the
23, I believe.
23.
So I think that.
Yeah, I feel like we've already lost 6 months on that.
Yeah, and so that is, I think from.
Is that accurate?
We because we're a committee, we don't meet regularly.
Well, we've been trying to get in touch with.
It's a chicken egg type thing. We want to do something, but we need to make sure we have the funds. We can't secure those funds because we don't have an idea how much it costs. We don't know how much it's going to cost because the person's not going to say, here's how much it's going to cost. And if it goes over a certain amount, we need to get a bid. And
So at this point right now, Chris Huntress should not, from what I'm told, go over that amount. So we can use him to, to utilize for saying, hey, here is Central Street Fields. We want to put the playground here, and we want to put the canoe launch there. And then after that, we can put things out for bid, saying, okay, well, we have a playground. There's going to be like, this is what happened with the basketball court. They came out and they just sort of drawing, this is what, and it cost us, I don't know what it was like $4,000 or $6,000 for the drawings. And they showed a sketch, a beautiful sketch of a nice basketball court with lots of fences and all, but it was way more than what we could afford, so we're cutting back. So basically what he would do is say, this is a place for a playground, here are your choices, and this is what they would suggest for, at that point, we pay for the sort of the management fee for him to say, this is a good location for it, this is the type of thing that would work in this area. And then we would put those bids out to playground developers, and they would come back and they'd give us an amount. And at that point, we can decide, because I guess the way the funding works is that it has to be spent and paid for by the end of 23.
No.
No.
No, I think it's more protracted. You have to know what you're doing, but it doesn't have to be done.
Okay.
I think there's more time for that.
Okay.
So is that potential plan before or after or at the same time as what the vision is for Kent Way?
Well, that's what I was asking.
I think what the town would like us to do is to get the playground done, because there's funding for it.
Sure.
And that will be, it will be a costly, I would assume that the playground would probably cost more than the basketball court. I don't know that for sure.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea
We just
either.
did put a playground in it, that
And
school
yes.
that I work at.
And yes, we just put one
And at Page
Yeah.
Elementary, and it costs at least 10 grand.
Oh.
Or more than that.
Well,
That's less.
that's less.
That's
Okay.
significantly
Well,
less.
I don't know, maybe.
Did they redo it, or was it like?
They did redo the whole thing, they did like the fancy padded floor, maybe I'm misspeaking.
Okay,
but I think-
okay. So that's one of the things we have to figure out is that, but with the initial step is to get Chris Huntress involved and then come up with an idea and say, okay, we wanna get this canoe launch done, and what is it gonna take to do that? And we wanna get the Because with the basketball court, there was a question of how close it was to the conservation area, and he had already done all that, so we knew that it wasn't.
Right, so. he
And
had that
it
time.
worked out, and everything was signed off, and it was great.
So he did Kent Way, so that would be an updating for him as well.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be.
Yep, yep,
So I think the thing is to contact.
Yeah, the Kent Way, the plans are already in place. The main thing is conducting, and again, this goes to the, some of the work, not necessarily the playground idea, for 81 Central Street is because it involves environmental wetlands. They need to be the study, and those studies don't need to, and that's not a Chris Huntress, that's another consultant would have to come in, identify what the wetlands is, mark it out, and then we'd go to Conservation Commission for their approval to do whatever work it is. So there's multiple parts to each one. For the playground, it's assuming it's not going to be anywhere near the pathway and it's up on the upper level. It shouldn't run into any environmental Conservation Commission issues. We confirm that with the conservation agent to confirm once we've identified a spot. The second one is, or part 2A, the environmental study for the removing the temporary bridge to put a permanent crossing from the Central Street property to the Triton Regional Complex, as well as any work that's done for the canoe launch and or access points behind the property.
Have we approached Triton to see if they want to partner on that?
Directly, no. It's not their property.
Even on the other side?
Even on the other side, the line goes up almost into the wood area. The town has it up through the marshy area, if you're familiar with it.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I've been down there, but it's been a while. So.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts had put in some PT at the far end because it gets marshy. The DPW does mow it on a regular basis, so there's not excessive growth. It's about a 20-foot wide path that goes in, leads to a, I want to say a 4.5 foot, just high off the ground area into the woodlands. Then you can follow the path. Just watch out for all the debris on to the right, and it goes into the Triton Complex.
So the answer is no.
The answer is, well, it's not their property.
Right, so that, I
yeah.
did know that, so that's
Right.
why I brought it up.
So I think what we should do is we should get in touch with the Huntress and say, I mean, I think that we all kind of agree that kayak, that pathway, and the playground, and that would
But
really,
The other, I think we also, I mean, I definitely think we should get in touch with him, but there's a few other things, ideas that came
Okay.
along. And if he knows that those are like secondary
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
priorities,
Well,
he
that's-
might be able to have that kind of, like we talked about a dog park, or you talked about a community garden, and then we talked about the loop. That loop would not be, we might be able to partner that in with the
Yeah,
playground,
yeah.
because that's not super expensive.
Yep.
Again, that's-
300,000. I
For
don't know
the-
why I thought 10. Somebody told me 10,000.
how much, 300?
About the rubber floor alone, which is like,
Yep,
you know, was 125.
And that's an adaptive playground for
Yes, right.
people with special needs. When we did Triton, I think that was like 125,000
Which one?
with the one behind NES.
Oh, the one that they built?
Yeah. that we-
Yeah, because they built it.
Well, yeah, there's a humongous amount of
I mean,
volunteer
Each
labor.
donation
Cut and
is what
paste.
X would be.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not cheap by any means, and particularly, you know, to what extent it's adaptive or standard.
so,
That's,
what, I guess the initial thing was to contact him.
Okay.
And, you know, open it up for his discussion and see if we can get, you know, a general sketch of the whole property and where people are gonna, I can hear it already, so I'm gonna bring it up. People are gonna say that if we put the playground, which I think great location would be on the other side of the parking lot where the kids slide down the hill. So, like-
Sledding,
Yeah.
parallel or
Yeah.
adjacent to Central Street.
I mean, that's,
do you want kids crossing the parking lot?
I think,
That's-
see, this is,
You knew I was gonna say that.
Here's the real question. Is Central Street, even though it's shovel-ready to receive something like that, the ideal spot? And again, if you look at most of the areas around here, where they have their fields for soccer, Pipestave, right, up in West Newbury? And the park is where the baseball field is, Action Cove.
I think-
Newburyport, you have Cherry Hill, where they have all their soccer, and then downtown is where you have your playground.
But I-
So
I-
Next to the
I go
basketball
through towns
court.
after town.
I think that the other thing, which I was thinking about, centrally located, central fields are central fields, versus if we decide to do Kent Way, they're, I mean, I know that,
They're off the beaten path.
yeah,
Well, that's,
But it's near the
it's
library.
also the path of least resistance, let's,
yeah,
but we could, it depends what size playground you're talking about here, and why not on the other side of the basketball court?
we have septic there.
No, yeah, on the other side of the pipe.
Further
Going towards the
down.
fields, I think we start to encroach on the fields, that soccer field.
Isn't there a space between? No, it's not that big.
Not a lot of space, there's a drainage ditch, don't forget, that runs down, and there's a little gully.
Because and we could sort of get around this by, if, again, I may be pushing something that no one else wants to do. If we had it in that location, everyone can see it, because you drive up and down Central Street, it's right there. And if what we want to do is we want to sort of encase that area, so that cars that are going to the parking, to the playground, there's like some protection of some sort, so you don't have kids running out. Like if we build a wall so the kids can go through, we don't have kids running out in the parking lot. I don't know.
I
mean,
just see kids leaving their parents' soccer field, running across
Mhm.
Yeah, but
the parking lot.
Yes,
I don't,
and again,
Maybe we should just leave this to Chris.
yeah.
Put in the
well,
hands.
let them know that there's obviously, yeah, leave it to Chris, giving him all the information, because, again, with the ball fields, there is, and again, when I've talked to some people who have been involved in putting in some of these other projects, the soccer, lacrosse, they're timed. You have an hour to play, you're off, you'll switch teams, and you're out of there. Baseball can run from an hour to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you don't know.
Right, right.
We're already losing a lot of parking with the gate the way it's set up. So on weekends, when there is 2 or 3 games, particularly if there's games back to back, that parking lot is already full.
They haven't been opening that back gate.
When you say they, the police?
Yeah, so if that's becomes an issue, we'll just go back to Plan B.
On weekends, I remember I've called Newbury Police and have asked them kindly to, on weekends, to open it up, because I do know that people have been parking, not necessarily in front of the wall.
If that's an issue, then I can get down and unlock it.
Yeah, Saturday mornings, I don't know the Triton Youth Soccer lacrosse, or Triton Youth soccer schedule, but the last couple Saturdays, it's been busy.
Okay. I mean, it's a simple call to the chief and say, hey, can you set up someone? Because it used to, they'd do that, they'd unlock it, they'd lock it, they unlock it, and lock it.
Yeah.
And then it won't be incumbent on us to do that. So, yes. So I guess the first thing we do is I guess we should motion to meet with Chris Huntress and ask him to look at the possibilities of playground.
We have to ask him how much,
But he's not gonna say, because he
Yeah.
doesn't know the scope.
So,
no, how much we need to appropriate money to hire him.
He can't, when I talked to him this summer, he said
How did we do it for the basketball court? Didn't we give him money in advance?
no, we met with
To
him.
do this, to
We-
do the,
we
no,
met
that
with-
I understand,
Yeah.
but to do the design, we set aside money for him to do the design.
I think we met with him first, and then
Yeah.
we approved,
It was like $5,000 or something.
Yeah, so we need to allocate the money to hire a consultant
Right,
to help us at this stage.
correct.
That's what we
But
need
my
to
question
do.
is asking Chris what that fee is, approximately,
Okay.
so we know what to.
So what I will motion is that we appropriate at this point in time, you said it was less than 5,000 last time?
I thought it was 6 something.
I make a motion that we appropriate up to $7,000 to secure a consultant to help us with the design, layout and design of Mantor Field. Excuse me, the property at 81 Central Street.
Second,
S-
we can always vote it if we need to.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that?
No.
You wanna vote? This goes, Mark? Yes? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, approved. All right. Master plan proposal, and then bridge environmental review.
So hold on. Consultants. Again, this goes back to funding to have a consultant come in to do environmental review of the property for the removing the temporary plate to put a permanent structure in. An email came back and said it might be advantageous for them to do both the river area, if the availability of a canoe launch could be in, or reconnect the trail that was taken down. Do you remember the Boy Scouts put a trail in?
Yeah.
The
Back in
plywood trail
2000
that disappeared?
The one in 2002, I think they did, 2003, that had been removed about
Yep,
4 years ago.
yep.
To do that whole area, where that is, where temporary bridges, where that was, and a canoe launch as one package, because a lot of the work is going to be redundant.
Yep.
And if we were to ask the town administrator, I can draw up a back of the napkin plan, but basically, and we don't have to act on any of it immediately. The order of conditions would be for 3 years, and then you can continue to renew it. If something comes up to say, you know what, this doesn't make sense, or we can't do that.
Well, I think that when we get in touch with Huntress, if he has an overall scale map of that whole area, including those islands, and I think that you want to put that canoe launch off of where the Boy Scout trail was, or in that general area?
No, it would be off the high bank right onto the river, and again.
So it doesn't go across into that island, it goes further to the
island
left?
would no, yes.
Okay.
The island you'd cross over, you'd have your own walking trail there.
Yep,
The access points off the island is not consistent, not
Okay.
that there's a lot of water in the tidal river up at our end in the summer,
yep.
but if we could put something in, and it would be, it wouldn't be intrusive, but something that allow people easier access to the river, so you can go take.
So basically what we're looking for is probably like a walkway down to a couple of piers that go out so you're not going through the mud, is that correct? And then someone could put a kayak against that when it, or is the idea is to do steps going right down through the mud, or build something so that, it'll be a walkway going into the tidal area? So you can pull out,
A
so.
lot will depend on the environmental study.
Okay.
The original plan, when I brought some consultants down from New Hampshire, the idea was to have an ADA ramp, which is expensive, and then you'd have a canoe launch, and it would be in a tidal river and a navigable river. You can't block access upstream or downstream. So it was very, very complicated and
So
costly.
I wonder if a ramp, like a ramp would be the solution. So it's just, like basically a concrete ramp or a wooden ramp that just goes into the water, so that as the tide goes out, you're seeing the end of the ramp, but as the tide goes in, you're always on.
It may be simpler
Yeah.
than that. It could just be laying stone down, large stones.
Yeah.
Flat
Okay.
stones, so you'd have access.
Okay.
Is
Uh,
Governor's doing anything with their new building down there?
What do you mean doing anything with
Are
it?
they doing some kind of water access?
I don't know.
No idea.
I
haven't
know
been
they
down there.
revised the plans a couple of times. That we would, it wouldn't be for public use. I do know that with one of the marinas on the river, they used to allow people to launch off of it, but because of, what's the word I want, liability, they've nixed that completely.
I mean, you can still launch from the town,
From the dock.
the town dock. They charge you. I think
Yes.
that I did it like a, I don't know,
$5. It used to be $5.
Yeah, it was by foot for some reason. I had like a sticker for the year. I don't know. That was years and years ago. Okay. I think, so what do you want to do do you want me to try to include that with Chris Huntress? Or is that something it's a secondary group that has to review that?
It's a secondary, the concepts will be included in the master plan
Yep.
for 81 consultant. A separate issue would draw up tentative plans for anything that would deal with the environmental, we need an environmental review for 81 Central Street, the bridge, the old crossing, and the canoe launch. I do know that there, and I don't want to make this project bigger than it needs to be. Part of the challenge is, since we put the gate in, the back road that used to be accessible
Yep.
for people taking canoes are going to have to walk the field.
Yep.
So that sort of eliminates we would need to get a waiver for an ADA, but you know, most people require an ADA accommodations would have a struggle getting from the parking lot to the access point. So, but I think we'd still need to get a waiver for it.
So I guess, I don't know if I'm being stupid about this, if it, as far as being ADA acceptable, isn't it easier to go, if you're trying to do something like that, would it be easier just to go to the town launch than through that
Town
walkway?
launch is problematic in terms of getting parking. And if you don't want to go down to that part of the river, which has a lot more traffic, boating traffic.
Yeah, I'm just,
And
yeah,
the access is not any easier. I have a picture of this beautiful kayak launch up in, was it the Ratchet River in Potsdam, New York, where you can put the kayak in, the person gets in, and they can pull themselves into the water. Can't use it here, but that's a true adaptive launch.
yeah, Kittery has, for the kayaks and the canoe, it's basically like a stone ramp that goes down and they put stones on it and you go
Yeah.
down to the point where you hit the mud.
Yeah, that might be, end up being what we have.
Yeah.
We need to do some trail maintenance, but yeah.
Okay, that seems easy if that's the case. All right, so on that matter, do we go through town to have that environmental, or should I talk to Chris and see if that's?
That would be, if we can come up with a general plan, I will work with Sam, the conservation agent, Sam Holtis.
Okay.
Apologize, and look at the steps. Some of it is talking to her, accessing administrative funds to pay for the getting a consultant to look at those 3 sites.
3 sites, meaning the,
Temporary bridge to the
Yep.
tri complex.
the walkway into the island part,
Yeah.
and then
And
that.
that's something Chris doesn't do? That's not part of his
He's not an
purview?
environmental consultant.
No, I know, but isn't that part of his purview with planning out the whole thing?
I can find out.
It could be. Usually, you're going to need to have an environmental.
Yeah, no, I
So
get that, yeah.
That's what we need to get.
I know, but do we do that, or does he do that as part of his?
It might be something under the contract, or it might be something we do individually, separately.
All right,
Don't know.
well, I will look into that. I'll talk to the town administrator and find out what she suggests, and I'll talk to Chris Huntress and see if he's interested. Does that sound like a plan?
It does.
Sounds like a plan.
I don't know if there's anything else, except for trying to figure out when the next date's gonna be.
Can we keep it the next Tuesday of November, and hopefully the stuff will have been resolved? i.e. the master plan for 81 Central Street, the environmental stuff, so we can allocate,
I'm away the first week of November.
we can call you. We can do electronic meetings, you know. I would do that for you.
Um,
Well,
November.
You might need me.
Tuesday, November 8th is election day, the next week.
That's Tuesday, but we're looking Monday.
I thought you said Tuesday.
No, it's-
Okay, so
I'm back Monday the
that's,
7th,
you're back Monday the 7th?
yeah.
Monday the 7th would work for me, I guess.
Is that what you were requesting?
Yeah, that's the first week.
I thought you
I
said
thought you said
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
You said Tuesday.
If I said Tuesday, I'm sorry. Fine, people, listen to me.
All
don't
right,
need
One
it.
time we listen, right?
Is everyone good with Tuesday? Does that sound like a reasonable?
Tuesday
You mean
or
Monday?
Tuesday?
Jeez, I'm sorry.
Monday
Monday
the
the 7th.
Monday the 7th, at 6 o'clock.
I'm back.
Monday 7th?
Will that
Monday
work
the
for you?
7th, Monday the 7th, yes. Do we want to keep it at 6, or do you want us
We
to?
can do 6, it's fine. We can do 5:30?
Kill it.
5:30?
I don't mind 5:30.
Six,
I'm good with
because
six.
I'm coming from Beverly and
Oh,
Yep,
no problem.
Works.
6.
that
Good.
was the equivalent of toggle.
And what is, did you talk to the Norton young man, and is he still in soccer? Is
Yes.
soccer, is Mondays a bad night for him because of soccer?
At this point in time with soccer, yes.
All right, I will try to reach out to his
Sunday
mom and
is,
find
I
out.
mean, isn't soccer starting to wind down?
You would think, the kids today. All right, so let's call a meeting at 6:11.
Second.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
well approved, and we're done.